Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Pro Take here on 88.7 FM, WRHU, Radio Hofstra University. I'm Chris Linney, and alongside me today is the sports anchor and reporter for Fox 40, Kirsten Kellar. Kirsten, it's a real pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on.
All right, so women's professional sports have gained a ton of popularity during the past year. So much so that we're seeing the NBA, the WNBA expand, and a new professional women's hockey league was just launched. So, what is the main reason as to why women's sports are becoming more popular nowadays?
I think that there are tons of different avenues where people can get their news, their cell phone, whether the radio, the television. And so all eyes now are on just all sports in general, but yes, definitely in women. And I think the growth in that is because of just how many pioneer women there have been that people can look up to. For example, you look at what Caitlin Clark has done just in her college career and then now into the WNBA and how much that has accelerated that sport. I think that a lot of women and even men in general are seeing now that, back in the day, little girls weren't couldn't dream this dream, and now they can because they can see that women can do it because they're doing it right now. And so I think the growth has to do with everybody has their phone out instantly to take a video. They want to be the first one to post it, they want to be the first one to go viral. And so more eyes are also on these moments because they're at your fingertips. You can see them. It's not that women's sports were never maybe around, but now all eyes can be seen because of how much media has evolved. And people are just really starting to, there's a lot of people that have been, women sports fans for decades. There's just more people getting on board. And I think that really has to do with how easy it is now to be able to see women's sports being played at the pro level or the national level, all the levels. And so it's really amazing to see. Being a woman in sports myself, I love to see that other women are flourishing and getting the attention that they deserve.
All right, so last year, usually it's the men's NCAA tournament that gets more traction and viewership, but this year it was a bit different. It was the women's tournament that locked in more viewers due to there being more excitement during their tournament. And what does that mean for the future of college basketball? And how prevalent will that be for the sport to move forward from this achievement?
When you look at the last year in women's basketball, all eyes were on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, LSU Tigers versus the Iowa Hawkeyes, and everybody was just in tune with what was going to happen for that game. And so I think that people are falling in love with the player in themselves, just like if you look at the Golden State Warriors, people love Steph Curry. No matter what Steph Curry does, everybody loves Steph Curry. And so I think that now, with people falling in love with certain specific players, it's going to help just the magnitude of all sports in general. And people aren't going to be just tuned in now to, for example, March Madness for men's college basketball, but like you're saying, women's college basketball. And that's because the sports are continuing to grow, and more women and more kids and more girls and boys are seeing it can be done on both sides, whether you're a girl or you're a boy. And so it's really exciting. I think that it's going to continue to grow. I'm hoping that we see some more stars evolve at the college level, whether that be women's basketball, hockey, softball, all of it, because I think that more sports is just exciting for everybody. It's the one thing that I think that our country can unite on, whether it's a boy or a girl or men's or women's. And so I'm excited to see as the years trickle on how much more we're going to see, like more breaking numbers being shattered, because I think this is just the surface level of what's to come.
Absolutely. So, various women's leagues are now expanding, such as the National Women's Soccer League, who just got a team in San Jose, Bay FC, and the WNBA, who's getting a team in San Francisco next season. So, how important is it for these two leagues to carry on with their expansion and branch out into different markets across the United States?
I think it's huge. Speaking as someone who's been covering the Bay FC and seeing and how much it's done for the Bay Area. The Bay Area and Northern California in general has a huge population of girls who play soccer. So to know that there's a pro team in Northern California is huge. It makes girls that much more motivated to want to keep going, to playing at sides just, at the high school and the middle school and the grade school level, to keep going to play at the college level and then go and exceed that. So I think that with these expansion teams, it's getting more people opportunities, and that's what we need, right? We need more opportunities for women to be able to go out and compete. So I think the expansion teams have to keep going. And that's with any sport. That's including, for example, you think of Major League Baseball and them wanting to change things up and have another expansion team in Nashville. And that's huge because Nashville doesn't have their own pro baseball team. So I'm excited, especially though for women's sports. And I think that it's crucial that they have to keep doing this so that way more people have more opportunity to get on more teams versus if you only have some, then it's only so many spots. So we need more spots to be able to give other girls the chance.
All right. So throughout the past few years, the WNBA has been a key contributor to viewership, especially the WNBA draft. And some very exciting players have come up, such as Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Aja Wilson, and Sabrina Ionescu, who was drafted in 2020. And those players have gained national traction from the league this season. But do you think they will continue to do so for years to come?
Definitely. I think it depends on, who the storyline is. But to answer your question, 100%, because I think that more girls and more women, people are going to follow them and follow their stories and be more tuned in. I think just the success that we had this past year with the names that you mentioned, like Caitlin Clark, and looking at, for example, Cameron Brink and what she's able to do with the Los Angeles Sparks, all of these women's and the stories that they have behind them, just that you're seeing these girls come from essentially nothing and end up becoming these global superstars and global athletes in their own right. So I think that a lot of women have talent coming out of college. And I think that now that people are watching, they're looking for, okay, who is the next Caitlin Clark? Who is the next Angel Reese? And so I think that this is just the beginning of what we're going to see happens. And there's going to be some years, if you look at this year's NBA draft, there wasn't a ton of eyes on it. I mean, you got Bronny James, but you didn't know a ton more that everybody was talking about. So I think there's some years, you're right, that will drop off a little bit, but I think that overall it's going to grow.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I'm so thankful to be able to be on this, and thank you so much for having me. I think that it speaks volume that you're even talking about women in sports. That just shows how much women in sports have grown already, because back then, 10 years ago on radio, that wasn't the case. We weren't talking about, so aside from being an anchor and a reporter, I make graphic designs for a radio station in San Francisco called 95.7 The Game, and I make all of their graphics along with one other gentleman. And it's amazing to see yourself do this and talk to us, like to women in general, about this, because it's really cool to see how much we've grown, but also that women can be in radio too, and they can do, they can play at the pro level and they can be behind the scenes. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and I'm really excited to seeing what you do next.
All right. So that is all the time we have for today. Alongside Kirsten Kellar, I'm Chris Linney. Now let's send it back to our hosts in the WRHU studios for some more sports talk on the Pro Take, only here on 88.7 FM WRHU.